Welcome, everyone, to our digest of the women's test match. I think we've all just about recovered, tried to catch up on some sleep, stopped crying, and got over it, got excited, thought about it, thought ahead, thought back. It's all been quite a whirlwind. It's given Hannah a migraine. I think 4 hours sleep a night is great. Alex is just doing what Alex does, and she's not got over it. But we're here to digest that test match that was quite the finish we would all hope to. Normally, being awake at 6 o'clock on a Sunday morning, not what any of us would want, but moments like that are going to live forever. So, England, Australia going, they're batting away. Meg Lanning declares Australia 216, giving England 257 to chase from 48 overs. And with 7 wickets left, England were needing 45 from 60. We got excited. England collapsed, not quite sure what's going on, and it went down to the very last ball. It was just phenomenal. Twitter erupted, the internet erupted. Everyone is talking about women's test match cricket now, and so are we. So welcome, Hannah, Alex. Sorry for my long intro. I'm just still probably not quite over it. How did you find the whole whirlwind roller coaster experience?
Well, as you said, I've still got a little bit of a headache, to be fair. It was so emotional, wasn't it? It just so intense. That last hour was just crazy. And I think we all thought England were going to do it until all of a sudden we saw Dunkley depart, and then Anya departing and Charlie Dean departing so quickly. It was just so topsy-turvy, wasn't it? But everybody was talking about how amazing a match it was for the neutral, and it was an amazing match for the neutral indeed. And yes, it's brilliant for the women's game. But I listened to the No Balls podcast earlier, and just hearing Kate Cross talk about the emotion of the players as well, like they were so disappointed, and I think we're allowed to be a bit disappointed too. I saw your tweet, Georgie, about criticising some of the performance, and that they are professional athletes and they deserve to be criticised, rightly so. And I think they will be regretting not winning that match, because it would have made such a difference to the overall context of the series.
Yeah.
Important
that collapse.
points.
I mean, you can't excuse losing 6 wickets for 26 runs, regardless of the level, really. These are the women at the top of their game. And yes, women's test match, amazing. But we want to talk about the sport as well as the spectacle, the performance as well as I can't think of a good word to go with that. I'm a bit sleep deprived. It's about the performance as much as it is about the story. And that wasn't good enough. We had drop catches in this game. We had a collapse. We had some phenomenal performances. Obviously, we're going to talk about Head of the Night, Catherine Brunt as well, and Amy Jones behind the sticks partially. She's not found her feet with the bat yet. Sophia Dunkley, 2 sixes to start off her test match career. Not too bad. But yes, there were moments that needed to be focused on, and there's a few things that should have gone England's way, and it should actually, if you ask me, at that point when we needed 45 from 60, 7 wickets in it, England should have won it. We were cruising. We messed up. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with what you've both said, but like you said about Amy Jones, yeah, she had an okay, decent game, I'd say, behind the stumps, but her lack of form, and it's not just in the Ashes, it was in this series against New Zealand as well. She didn't score many runs, so she will be slightly concerned on that front. But in this test match in particular, it kind of resembled Joss Butler in one of the men's Ashes tests, because you expect him to pull off all the spectacular stuff, but when it comes to the simple things, he can't seem to find his feet. And I think that kind of happened a little bit with Amy Jones. And yeah, a draw is probably a fair result in the end. But considering we lost pretty much the third day to rain, it's remarkable that both teams were able to be in this position. Because when you thought at the start of the day, you thought, oh, Australia's just going to bat out the day. And it turned out to be quite a good decision from Meg Lanning to declare. And England will be kicking themselves that they didn't win the test match. And like you say about Sophia Dunkley hitting 2 sixes, she's obviously learned from Mark Wood hitting Pat Cummins for 3 sixes in a row. So, it's a good performance. It's a fighting performance. But I feel like it's a lot for England now. to go on and win those 3 ODIs, because Australia are phenomenal in that format.
Yes, Australia, who were on a 26 ODI winning streak. The best was when they overtook their own men on the winning streak. So I'll give them that. But yeah, Australia's women, world record winning streak, ODIs. We need to win. We being England. England need to win all 3, which even when you're not playing the top team in the world is a big ask with everything that's been going on in the world and following the turbulence of that test match, the mix around, the move around, starting with T20s, going to test match. That is going to be a difficult ask. And also following all the emotion of this game, they have to sort of put that aside. Yes, it was an amazing spectacle of test cricket. Yes, they should have won. Yes, there are things to take away that are positive, negative, but now it's drawing a line under that and getting back into white ball game, 3 ODIs to go. Hannah, do you think they can do it? Can they come close?
Well, the main thing is obviously win, isn't it? Without a doubt, we have to win these 3 matches. But like you mentioned about that mindset, it's how they kind of bounce back from this now. It'd be so interesting to see what approach they do take and how they do come down from the highs and lows of what just happened this weekend. I think they need to line out their batting order straight away. Who's going to be opening, and they have to make a good start. We can't expect Heather Knight to score all the runs coming in that number 3 spot kind of. It can't always be on her shoulders. We do need the openers to get going, and then if it does come down to that tail, they have to take responsibility. We cannot be losing so many wickets for so few runs if that does happen. So it's definitely going to be about accountability. It's going to be about really taking the game to Australia, like we saw in this Ashes bit. It was basically like a 50-over match, wasn't it? Towards the end, they had 48 overs, so you need that kind of momentum going into those ODIs now. Perhaps we could even call it a little bit of a warm-up for the ODIs, because that's the mindset that we really want to see, isn't it? A hard hitting, taking every chance that they do take, and ironing out all the mistakes that's been seen in the first T20 and obviously within the Ashes as well. Just getting that extra 1% from all players.
Yeah, Alex, what do you think we need to do about that middle order collapse? Because that's something that is, you get 2 chances to bat in a test match, but back to the ODIs, a middle order collapse and you're out of the game. Unless you can't just rely on Heather Knight.
Yeah, and this England batting lineup is susceptible to a batting collapse. We've seen it against New Zealand. They go between, I can't remember the exact score, between 170, 180. They did end up winning that game by some stroke of luck and having weather on their side. But I think part of the issue they may have is trying to find the right balance. Like if they include Villiers and Wyatt, who's going to get left out, you could say Winfield Hill but it's really difficult because in that test match, yeah, some people got scores, but the people you think who should get scores haven't really performed yet. And we can't always leave it up to Tammy. Like she was good in the first T20. She was a little bit unlucky in the first innings, got that run chase in the second innings off to a flyer. So I think Wyatt may have to come in, but Maddie Villiers, sheerly for her fielding abilities, has to come in. She doesn't just offer that, she offers bowling. And I think having a player like Villiers is something that England lacked in the test match, because I'm not going to lie, England were pretty sloppy in the field and they really need to tighten up on that. You can't be giving players like Perry, Lanning, Haynes, even Mooney chances, because they will go out and they will bludgeon you.
And that's something that you can just carry across regardless of the format. You should be catching the ball. It doesn't matter if it's red, if it's white, if it's pink, if it's multicolored, if it's the dog's tennis ball, you should be catching it. It's just, that is cricket. Catches win matches. We've said this before, we'll say it again. It is, think how often you practice catching. You do it from whatever level. That is such a key part. Cricket is batting, bowling, fielding. You need all 3. You can't miss one out if you want to keep winning. But But yeah, looking ahead. Wait, do we have anything else we want to say about Test match? Any more digestion? Let's celebrate it a bit as it's been.
Yeah, because the other thing I was just going to mention is the fact that thinking about batting, like obviously Lauren Winfield-Hill 33, Tammy Beaumont 36, Heather Knight 48, Nat Sivir 58, and Sophia Dunkley 45 are really promising good stuff from the top order. And like we're saying, like if we can reframe that kind of Ashes trying to chase for total in the 48 overs, if they can use that same kind of mindset into these ODIs, that would be a brilliant start. Like I would love to see those scores on the scorecard for the ODIs, and hopefully we'll see these players go beyond the scores that they did here. You know, I'd love to see some more half centuries and see somebody get their century within the ODIs, but that top order did their job properly, and that's something that doesn't always happen and that we should really praise.
And that was up against some of the finest bowling in the world. You've got the likes of Perry in there, but what worries me as an English fan is the future of Australian cricket, because someone like Alana King comes in, she plays in the T20, she whips on her sunglasses, she's really good. She's then like, oh, I just got my T20 cap, I'm going to carry on being really, really good. I found it quite entertaining the way the very last ball, Alana King bowls a full toss, Kate Cross blocks said full toss. I mean, it's the safest way to do it, but it almost was like mind games. It was very funny. You don't know if it was accidental. You don't know what she was doing there, but she's got a very mature head on a very young, very promising player, Lana King, and we're going to see a lot of her in the future across internationals, franchises, and I can't see her not featuring in some kind of ICC Team of the Year at some point in the future. She's going to be very, very good.
Just on that, it's not like on the flip side, England aren't producing talent. We've got the likes of Alice Tapsey coming through, Izzy Wong with the ball, Lauren Bell with the ball, and we've got some other players who are a little bit older, but they're just as good. You've got Georgia Adams being phenomenal in the T20 game, Eve Jones. I'm really surprised Eve Jones didn't get picked for the actual Ashes squad.
I thought the same on Tash Farron, if I'm honest.
Yeah, Tash as well.
But this is a good sign.
I think also the fact that without Tash, there's only one left-hander in the squad, and that is a problem for England. So they could always look to bring Eve Jones in to open the back. Like her form in the Rachel Hayhoe Flint Trophy, she scored the most runs of any player, and she can't get in the England side. That is a joke. That is a literal joke. Someone of that quality, someone who can hit the ball, and she's got experience playing in England. She played in the in Australia. She played in the WBBL. You want players like that in the England squad. Yeah, some players you've got like Dunkley, Charlie Dean, they've never played in Australia before. But, you know, Eve Jones may have never played for England, but she played in the WBBL, so she's got experience playing in those kind of conditions, and that's what you want.
It is promising, though, that we're going, oh, we've missed this person out. We haven't been able to fit them in. Rather than scraping any barrels, our barrel is overflowing, and that is never a bad thing. We've had a few of our fans agreed with us on this thing. We had a question from Jack, who was asking about what we were going to do without the Heather Knight runs, and that is questionable. But like you said, there were promising prospects of that. We had 48, 45, so that is fantastic. He also asks, what do England need to do to support the lower, middle, and tail batters? The score should have been achievable, yet they seem to have frozen at the end. Do you think that's just lack of that kind of situation?
Potentially. How many times have these players been in this situation against a team like Australia? So I said that, and I'm thinking actually we probably have been in it quite a few times, but not as regularly as they perhaps should do, because obviously there's a bit of a gender play gap between the amount of times that the women play versus the men play, for example. So that experience, and you'd like to think for some of the shots that they played, you know, they could have just waited. They weren't.
The shrubs all run out.
Yeah, she potentially could have made it. If she, you know, I think there's a bit of hesitancy, or just don't do it. You know, in that game situation, whatever game was, it was like less than run a ball. Like you don't need to be trying to like slobber boundaries. You don't need to be doing much. You know, the fielders were out. Get the single, rotate the strike when it's a safe single to take. But it's easy for us to say that, isn't it? You know, sat at home and just chilling and stuff. But I think it could be just a mindset and the pressure and just trying to deal with that heightened situation. But, just being a little bit more clever about the game situation for sure. And I know, like, when Kate Cross came in, she said on their podcast, like, she was just told to, like, get the game safe, nothing stupid, just don't get out. And I know that she was talking about, like, those times where she wanted to take it on, and like that full toss at the end, she could have absolutely kind of clobbered that if she wanted to, but she didn't. She just made sure that she did not get out, and she did her job amazingly. And I think a lot needs to be said about Kate Cross towards the end there, because it was easy for her to buckle under the pressure, but it was never in doubt with her. She was so calm. But yeah, I think that tell, they can play, they can bat.
We saw what Kate Cross did in the 100. She hit the first 6 of the 100 ever. She can bat.
Exactly. Yeah, like, absolutely. And the same with Eccleston. But obviously with Charlie Dean, it's perhaps the lack of experience. Just needs to get a bit more time in the middle. People like Brunt and Shrubsole perhaps could have, they've got the experience. They perhaps should have just been a little bit calmer in those situations. And if Shrubsole didn't want to run, she should have certainly let Charlie Dean know that.
Yeah. Another question that's come in here from Hannah. Alex, I'll send this one your way as well, because today we're recording this the Monday after the test match. It's just been announced today. There's the prospects of an England-South Africa test match in the summer, which would be fantastic. And so Hannah actually has asked, how many test matches should we expect, or do we want to see each year from now on?
It's hard to put a number on it, but like, when someone like Catherine Brunt has only played a handful of test matches and only got 50 test wickets, and she's been playing for 17 years. And then you look at someone like Joe Root, who's been playing since 2012. So that's 10 years? And he probably has about the same amount of wickets for a part-timer. So it's just ridiculous in the amount of levels that men, like the men's team alone, played 15 test matches last year. I believe they only won 5 of them, which is not great. So, and England only played 1 last year, was drawn. So when teams like England, not just England, just any women's team, they're not playing test cricket regularly, or at least having 1 per series, I think they should, personally, if they're going to play a multi-format series, they should include a test match, because we want to see teams improving. We want to see women's cricket improving. We want to see more exciting test matches like the one between England and Australia. So how do we do that if we're not playing them regularly? And it is a format that all the players seem to like.
Yeah, and actually that does link quite nicely on to what Joseph has asked us, which is, how do we get to the point where we no longer have to say that each test match the women play is a referendum on whether or not women play tests, so that we can actually just sit back and enjoy it? And that is such a good question, because every time we're like, oh yeah, this means we should play more test cricket. But we said that last time. We said that time before. It should just be enjoying the performance. If it's a great test match, it's a great test match. It shouldn't be, oh, that was a rubbish test match, therefore there shouldn't be women's test cricket. We could say that about anything. That was a rubbish tennis match. Why are we doing this? That was a rubbish this. It shouldn't be that. We should celebrate it for what it is and the performance that is going on, rather than cut or cull or continue.
100%. And the thing is, there's such a long history with women's cricket. It kind of frustrates me when we have to have these moments time and time again of like, oh, like you say, do you think we should have more tests? Absolutely. It's all about just trying to get that regular calendar in place. It's for opportunity to play. Like, even the T20 World Cup in 2020, the 2020 T20 World Cup in Australia, people were talking about 86,000 people in the crowd, more than what they were talking about the result and the performances, because it was like this one-off spectacular event. And we want to normalize that. And there has to be a process, and there has to be structures in place to just normalize the fact that women are playing cricket on this international stage, and we can enjoy it. And we're getting closer to that point where it is normalized, I think. But there's still a long way to go, because the more we keep going, oh, isn't it amazing women play tests? And oh, isn't it amazing? It's not where we want it to be. Like you say, we want to just be able to, like, oh, women's test matches, and oh, you're going to watch it. And it's there for you to view, not just like, okay, we have to save every moment and we have to make noise about it, because if we don't make noise, we're not going to get any more. And I think people are starting to listen a little bit more. And like Alex said, if we can have a test with every multi format series that's played, we're going to be on to a winner.
Yeah, I agree. More test matches of good quality that we don't have to sit down and go every minute. I need to see every minute because I don't know when the next one's going to come around. Hannah also asks us, is there a women's cricket support group out there, including heart rate monitors and anxiety-reducing techniques? I am so with you on that, Hannah. 6 o'clock on a Sunday morning, my heart rate did not need to be that high. Another one we had in was from also Joseph again. So he was just celebrating the test match and the idea of a South African one, saying it was really good news for fans of the women's game. 4 different nations playing a test within 12 months might mean that women's test cricket is reborn and teams will have regular tests. And I think that's quite a nice way to end there, talking about the test match side of it all. So test match hat off, coloured kit back on, white ball back out. Predictions for the ODIs. Alex, I'm coming to you first.
The optimist in me says that England are going to win them 3-0, but the realist in me says 1-1 with 1 rained off.
Okay, cool. Well, we're going to ignore your realist and we're going to go for 3-0 England. England win the Ashes. Cool.
But let's just say I am 2 for 2 on predictions. So predicted Heather Knight century, predicted 3 ducks for Alyssa Healy. So who knows?
Who knows? Also, shout out to Heather Knight's partner for the frosted tips.
Yeah, very 2003 Jimmy Anderson vibes.
Yeah, it was very funny because we were all questioning what that helmet head bashing was, and that was her telling him it was time to go and get the dye. So very, very good. Hannah, predictions for the ODIs.
Oh, see, I'd love to be optimistic, but I think we're going to have a sad day on the first match. To be fair, I think Australia will do their business. I'd love to say a 3-0 win, and I'd love to be proven wrong, but it does happen. But I think it will be 2-1 to the Aussies.
Yes, I was going with 2-1. The thing is, I feel like they might take the first one. They're going to come out and all guns blazing. They're like, this is our territory. We know what we're doing in an ODI. We have got the history behind us. And as much as you don't want that to take away or do anything to the rest of the series, that is, the Ashes gone. But maybe, then England can play without the worry, really. It's not been a whitewash. It's not been a poor performance at all, really. Yes, we had 2 rained out. That was a bit difficult. We've had an amazing test match. And actually, if Australia win this one and they win the Ashes, England are just going to come out and be like, you know what, we're still going to prove to you what we can do. And so, yeah, I'm going to go 2-1 Australia. Just to round up, Hannah, what was your highlight of this test match?
I think for me, obviously seeing Catherine Brunt walk off, ball in hand, getting that first 5-foot was absolutely spectacular. Just people keep saying, and she said it herself, like she doesn't know when she'll be playing her next test match. Hopefully she'll be playing against South Africa later this year. But if that was her last test match, what a way to bow out.
Alex, what are you thinking? What was your highlight of that test match?
I've got a few. You can't look past Heather
You're only
Knight.
allowed one.
That's difficult because then I'm going to go with Charlie Dean getting a maiden test wicket. It's been a phenomenal 6-7 months for the all-rounder. Didn't have a contract when she was first selected for England, and look where she is now, contracted by the Vipers, playing for England. You can't help but think that a central contract isn't too far away. And she's doing all this while she's in her 3rd year of uni, which we all know is very, very stressful. So fair play to Charlie Dean.
My highlight is a bit of a strange one. It was Meg Lanning declaring, because that showed such a sports mind of actually, I can declare on this and it's going to give us any opportunity for any result. They were going for that win. Yes, she's Australian and I wouldn't want her to go for that, but it did mean that she, as an Australian, was thinking ahead and thinking, right, we can go for this win. I back my players to get these wickets. And I know I'm meant to be an English fan here, but for the game and the idea and the competitive aspect of it all, I think that was just amazing to declare then and be like, you know what, we're going for this. So it has been a whirlwind few days, and luckily the Women's Ashes is still not done. We have 3 ODIs coming up. It's going to be another strange early morning, 3:10 at the Monaco Oval, English time. We won't be at the Monaco Oval, sadly. 3:10 English time on Thursday morning. And it is, you know, you could say it's still all to play for. We've had an amazing spectacle of Test cricket. We were sad enough to have 2 rained out T20s, but we still have 3 ODIs left in this Women's Ashes. And I cannot wait. We will be rounding up some as we go along. Everyone just keep watching, listening. Let us know what's going on. We are loving everything that's going on in the Ashes, regardless of sleep patterns. That's why they invented coffee. And I hope you've enjoyed our musings on this one, and we will tune in again in a few days' time.